So this is John Miller, the Hometown Historian channel. We are here at Altalaha Lutheran Church. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly or not. We're here in Rehrersburg, Pennsylvania. It's Altalaha Lutheran Church. It's probably I'm guessing it's German of some sort and it has a meaning. I'm going to do some more research because I'm having issues with my mobile data allowing me to get the research, go and find a grave, that type of thing. But we're going to go through the cemetery here. This is sort of a quicker, because I'm not trying to walk too much. It's just where I'm at physically right now. But pretty cool church. I'll get you the age of it and when it was founded, those type of information, and maybe any other information that I can find on the church and on the cemetery. But we're going to go through the older part of the cemetery. I'm not quite sure how old that is, so this is sort of a discovery for me as well as you. Over there is the newer part of the cemetery. I may have to move my vehicle. I don't think so, but I never know, because people get weird about your filming at a cemetery and then they decide that they gotta get up in your face about it or whatever, but hopefully they don't do that. So let's flip the camera around and then we'll take a peek at the church and then go over in the cemetery. Thanks everybody. Alright, so there you can see the sign for the church, however that's pronounced. This is the church itself. It's a really pretty Lutheran church. Beautiful, these beautiful brick buildings. I'm guessing this is probably early 1800s. Let's go over to the front of the church and see if we can actually see. A lot of times they'll have like a date stone towards the entrance of the church. I don't see one on this side. Sometimes there is a date stone, and then you can get a general idea of when the building was built. You can just see just the beautiful windows and just everything there. I just like these brick country churches. Let's see, there's a stone here. Alright, so this stone covers a time capsule buried 31st of October 1976 to be opened in 99 years on July 2075, July 4th, by the Tricentennial Committee of Tulpehocken and Bethel Townships. So this might actually be as early as like late 1700s. I wouldn't be shocked by the brickwork. This is a beautiful church. I wanted to stop here for a while just to take a peek at the cemetery, because like I said, it is an older cemetery. It looks like there's probably some Revolutionary War vets, because those tops of the stones I talked about, they have like sort of that weird crown thing. That those are usually 1780s to like 1820s, and you'll wind out with quite a few Revolutionary War vets. Let's see what it says here. Jacob Moyer, it's 1820 born. And you know, some of these old stones that are written in German, and that's usually a good sign you're like late 1700s, early 1800s. Like I said, I'm not going to spend a ton of time, not because I don't want to, but I mean, you guys have the whole story. I talk to you guys about it. It's still sort of difficult for me to walk around and do that type of stuff, so I'm trying to be as cautious and as smart with it as possible, just with the videos that I'm doing. I was going back through a bunch of my emails for a Hometown Historian channel and realized that I had Concerned Grandma had sent me a really cool thing from Shillington, Pennsylvania, where it's a Miller family homestead. So we're going to do that video at some point. And also Colleen had sent me a few other things that I had to look through, and she has the channel Colleen Unvarnished, and we're going to go through and do a bunch of those, and they don't kill me as much physically, so that's one of the reasons that I want to try to start hitting some of those. And Colleen took the time to take those pictures, so I want to get on those. These are the ones that have really pretty writing on them, and actually in pretty decent shape as well. Hopefully you guys can see these pretty well. But Yeah, and a lot of these are in German. Unfortunately, I do not Güberschneven very well, so this would be the old. I like this as like a Bible here. That's pretty cool. And then you have the Johannes, which is the German version of John. It's pretty cool. And just the craftsmanship that went behind making these memorials. Quite impressive. Hoping I can catch a couple dates here. That looks like almost like 1813, and then 1849 is when they died. So it's in that time period, like I said, these stones where they have the crown thing on top. And there's Revolutionary War, so yeah, we're in that Revolutionary War period. This is probably one of the cemeteries I'll wind up coming back to, much like Derry Presbyterian Churchyard. When I go through Find a Grave app, there's a lot of you find like some really unique individuals that are worthy of note. I will say this one thing. I did the video I was talking about that John Gloninger over at Tabor Reformed. He was both a Pennsylvania representative for I think like 2 years in the Pennsylvania House of Representatives towards very, very beginning, right after the Revolutionary War period. And then he was also a U.S. representative for I think like 6 months, because it was sort of common back then. They would start a term, say in March, and then resign the position by the time he came to like August or something like that. Because that was roughly, I think it was in 1819 when he served that, and then he went back to being the prime justice or whatever, like the top justice of Lebanon County, because Lebanon County was started in 1813, so that was about 6 years after that. There looks like a Johannes Eschelman, 1765 born, died in 1838. So yeah, it's just one of those things, like you go through these really the old cemeteries, and just the way the stones are, and it's always so neat. Like I like to do a little bit more with this, but we'll come back here. I'm going to try to get a little bit of history, like the founding, like how old the building itself actually is, and add that to this video. But it's just right now, like I want the content to be as great as possible, but I also have to be aware of not putting myself in a position where I get hurt. Here they have the stone, like the military stone. Philip Klein, he was a private, I guess, in Captain Regal's company, Burke's Company, PA Militia, Revolutionary War, 1763 to 1834. So he was a young guy, maybe 15 or 16 when he served Revolutionary War, when that started. And that was commonplace. And I like that empty area, that probably all has people buried there. It's just the stones aren't around anymore. But we'll come back here at some point, and then we'll really go through this. But I wanted to come through here and take a peek at this cemetery. I wanted to stop here for a while. I was hoping I could have my internet. And Elizabeth Lawnstor, wife of John Binkley, November 22nd, 1766 to October 14th, 1836. Because there's so much history here. You know, every single one of these people had families. They had people that loved them. They had a history. A lot of these people were the early on settlers of this area, and their life was obviously very, very different from our own. The struggles that they faced and all those types of things. Okay. Yeah. I think I just lost possibly a couple years off my life there. Sheesh. Here's one of these stones. So I was right, early 1800s. 1808. There's the cornerstone right there, so that's cool. But I'd like to learn a little bit more, because even when you have, this is the building, the church probably existed well before then. It was probably a log structure. It was one of those things. But this is an area, because I believe we're in Berks County, or very, very close, like right on the border. So this is an area that would have been very early settled. But give you another view there of the church, but cool. With that, we'll like I said, we'll come back here, because I really do want to revisit this and spend a little bit more time when I'm able to walk a little bit better. I just don't want to push it, because both feet are starting to heal pretty well, and I just don't want to backtrack at all. But I will add more to this video where I try to find out more history, and if I don't, I'll still say something, you know. But that was cool to find that date stone over there at 1808. So, you know, this is 214-year-old building. You know, pretty freaking cool. It reminds me a lot of like Benagel's. Benagel's is a little different because it has over the windows, that type of stuff, so it's a little bit different architecture, but very, very neat looking church. So much history here. But hopefully I can find a little more information out, and then maybe we'll go through and look at some of the different monuments over here too, because there's some stones that are easily 130 years old over here too. So, but anyways, with that, I'll say thank you for coming along as always as we discover more hometown history. And we're here at Rehrersburg, Pennsylvania, and we will see you all about town. Alright, so we are back. So I just wanted to say sorry about I would have liked to have done a lot more with the cemetery there, but we will come back here and revisit this place. I'll do a little bit more research and then wind up going through there and really immersing ourselves in that cemetery. And just, it's a really neat cemetery. I mean, there's a lot to view there. So I was able to actually find quite a decent amount of information about this church. The Altalaha, which it also had it was actually an area that back in the 1720s, it was known as Altalaha. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it or not right. It's Altahahoe, but that was the name of the manor that the land was taken off of. It was laid out for a Richard Penn. Whether that guy was in some way involved with the Penn family, I'm not sure. John Wolford, I believe, eventually owned the land, and he's the one that actually bestowed the land for this church. We believe it may have been founded as early as the 1740s, but the first official sort of talk of this being an actual church was John Casper Stover was the first pastor, and we've talked about him a lot with the Lutheran Church. He was the first pastor between 1746 and 1757, and that's when they built their first church, which would have been a log structure. And then in 1765, they had a second church was built as well. Once again, this was another log structure. I believe they kept that there till about 1810, and then the logs were used for a home somewhere in that area that's still actually standing. So that's actually quite extraordinary. And then, of course, the current structure, the building today, was built in 1808. Now, this, like many other Lutheran churches, the Reformed Church of that area as well used the church when there weren't Lutheran services. Now, to the records, doesn't sound like the Reformed Church really used the church a whole lot, other than they shared with the cemetery. And the members are the ones that actually paid into subscriptions of paying for this church. And I believe in the 1880s, around 1886, they actually did build onto this structure. So not all of its original structure, but it makes sense. As a lot of these churches, that's how they did it. But that's the history of Altalaha Lutheran Church. So I guess it's just the Altalaha is like with Johannes, maybe the Altalaha is the English version of that word. Whatever it means exactly, I'm not really sure. That's not something that I was able to find. But
A lot of history to this church. I look forward to going back here with you guys. And thanks for coming along. And as always, we will see you about town.